So I'm going to share my screen here and kind of just go through some reporting basics and also just kind of tips and tricks and a lot of things that I see my clients request for when I build them reports. So I'll just dive right on in. So I'll kind of go over each of the types of reports that are here, and then some of the ones that I find that are helpful based on different types of cases and just things that may be helpful, especially for those of you that have migrated into FileVine and that are still doing data cleanup. Reporting is a great way to help you do data cleanup. And for those of you that are managing high volume, I think reports are essential to managing high volume cases. So some of the report types that you have here, list of projects, that's probably going to be the most popular one that you'll utilize, because that's where, you're building a report where for a case list of any type, and you can add in any of those customized fields that you have in your template. For example, for all the PI firms, if you were looking to build a statute report, assuming that your statute of limitations is a deadline field, start with that list of projects. For those of you that are your FileVine admin, you'll have what's called an audit report. This one's great for when you're looking at usage. So if you're looking at how your staff is using FileVine when they're logging in, what they're touching. This is also great for when you have something weird occurring in a project. You're trying to see if maybe it's a user error or if there's a bigger issue there. You can actually run that audit report to look for a field and see if somebody has changed a field or if somebody deleted something. You can run that in that audit report. You have list of contacts. List of contacts is going to work it's going to pull contacts that are associated with projects only. So if you're looking at just all contacts or all types of contacts, even if they're not associated with a project, that's going to be that marketing list here. So keep that in mind. Those are the differences between these two reports. List of contacts are only contacts that are associated with projects, and marketing list is going to pull up any contact, whether it's associated with a project or not. Then you've got list of clients, which of course is going to pull in that client's list of notes. So I'll show you a pretty cool report that you can run with notes if you're utilizing tags. You can actually run report. There's some pretty cool criteria there. List of tasks. This is another great report to use, especially again for managing your task flow for your staff. You can actually run an incomplete task report. We'll build one of those as well. List of documents that can help you. If you're searching for a document, you can use list of documents. Granted, the documents home is kind of a little bit easier to use now that FileVine has added that. Project phase counts. This report's pretty cool, and it helps you look at if you have a bottleneck somewhere in your system where you can see if, oh, maybe we need to do an audit on all these cases that are in a particular phase. You can run that project phase count. That will let you know exactly how many projects you have in each phase. Project hashtag count. That's if you're utilizing tags, that will let you know how many projects you have for each tag. Project type count, if you have more than one template, FileVine template in your system, that will let you know how many projects you have per project type or FileVine template. Deadlines. This report is great for looking at all deadlines in your org that are coming up. That's deadline chains and deadline fields. And it's also good to run to see if you have any deadlines that have been completed, but your staff hasn't completed in your system. I usually run this report when I'm doing audits just to kind of help those firms take a look at it and see if there's any just old data that needs to be cleaned up to where these reports are cleaner and run a little bit better. Calendar events, when you can run reports on looking at calendar events in the whole org on all projects and users. Marketing list, we already kind of discussed that one. User list, which when you want to run and see all your users and what permissions they have, and if their two-factor authentication is turned on, you can take a look at that too. AI job list, that will let you know your AI, if you have AI fields, if they're being run and what that look and when and all that good stuff. Invoices, payments, payment application, and billing items. These are all for time and billing. And same for project fund entries. Now the next lists you have are going to be for your collection section reports. And to run those, you have to actually make a selection on your project, your organization first, and then you make a selection on your project type. So let's do our personal injury here, and then you will get all of your collection section items. As you guys know, if you've been in Filevine for a little bit, you'll know that that's kind of where the limitation is as far as running a report for a list of projects. If you're wanting to pull in maybe insurance information or negotiations, then you're going to want to run a report from that collection section here. So we'll take a look at more of that, diving into some of those here too. We'll run what's called a collection export and show you guys what that looks like as well. So all right, let's go ahead and start building a report. Let's start with our basic list of projects here. All right, so your first step here, of course, is running that, making, your selection of your organization. Then you've got project type. If you have more than one project, or it'll make you select it regardless if you have more than one project. But this is when this tells Filevine what of your customized fields that you need in your report. So you have to always make that selection. And I know sometimes for those of you that are new in Filevine reporting, you're going to forget to select that sometimes, and then you're going to wonder why those fields are popping up when you're looking here in either whether you're looking in your category selector or if you're utilizing quick select, which I highly recommend utilizing your quick select. It just moves things a little quicker. If your fields aren't popping up, come down here, take a look at that project type, make sure you've made that selection. I'll also tell you another recommendation when running reports, especially if you're really adding a lot of columns or fields, is to go ahead and have a test project pulled up or a project that you're taking a look at over here. So let me pull up a test project here that we can play with and get that pulled up so we can build over here. Right, and then we can start building out that project or that report. All right, so first thing, everybody always likes to have the project name. You're going to want to utilize, definitely have that. And I think what we'll build today is our statute report. So let's go ahead and start there. Org name, usually you don't need that. That org name is going to be, your firm name. So one fun thing that you can do to get something removed besides having to click here and then pull it back is you can actually double click it and it will go ahead and remove it. This also works for when you're wanting to add a column. So let's do this. Let's add that incident date in here. We'll add that on in there. And again, this is where we can use our quick select. Just type it in. If you're also not sure what you're looking for, you can come down to the category selector. This will give you different sections that you're looking at to add it in here. Then you've got some pretty fun fields you can add in here that are just in the general phase date. This one's pretty popular, especially if you're just trying to look at an overview of cases. Phase date's a pretty cool one to add because this lets you know the date that this project has entered into that phase. This will also help if you're running a report after you've looked at that counts in phase and you've kind of identified a bottleneck in your workflow. You say, oh, wow, I have way more cases in that treatment phase than I should. Then go ahead, run a report on all cases that are in that phase. And I'll also show you how to make that criteria here in just a minute. But pull in that phase date. That's when you can take a look at it and say, okay, well, this case has been in this phase for 6 months. That's lengthy for our workflow. so that now we can deep dive into the case and figure out why. First primary, everybody kind of uses this. First primary a little different, whether that's an attorney or paralegal on your case. People like to leave that there. Project type, if you don't really have more than one template, sometimes that's not necessary, so you can pull that on out. And I think a lot of people use a case type or accident type if you're PI, to know what type of case it is. Let's see what else is a good one to pull in here. Last activity is a great one. This lets you know the last activity that you had on your case. So that one's a fun one to pull in, especially if you're like we were looking at that case list for a case audit. It will let you know the last time somebody touched that case. So if you're looking at a case that has been in a phase for, let's say, longer than 6 months and nobody's touched it in 3 months, then that's kind of, a red flag. Hey, let's take a look at it and see exactly what's going on. This particular case. And let's type in a statute of limitations. So we're going to look at that 1-year statute of limitations. When you're running an SOL report or any kind of, you're wanting to pull in a deadline field, for anyone, make sure you're pulling in that due field. If you're not pulling in that due field, then you're pulling in done, and that's not what we're wanting to report off of. So let's go ahead and make that selection here in your statute. You can add in any other field you're wanting. If you're pulling in, let's say, paralegals, whoops, full name. You want to pull in so you're knowing who exactly you're on what paralegal is on this one. You can pull in that. You can pull in attorneys, any of those. Paralegal full name, and let's see if we can get attorney. There we go. Attorney full name, and that will also help you with knowing, okay, we're just going to go ahead and pull in a paralegal full name and attorney full name, and maybe that's something we can group once we run the report later, and I'll show you guys how to do that. Now that we've kind of got the fields that we're looking at, we can go into choose criteria. You can go to choose criteria from down here at the bottom, or you can choose just right up here at the top, and this lets you add filtering. So we've got our statute. So let's look at that 1-year statute, and I'll show you one of my favorite filters to use for SOL reports. Let's see here. All right, so here is, you've got a couple. You can have ones that we want to run, ones that are overdue is what we're looking at. And then there's also, let me make sure I have our right statute in here. There we go. Let's see here. Statute of limitations. And for those deadline fields, again, that we've mentioned before, you're going to want to take a look at statute of limitations. Make sure you're pulling in the due in your criteria. You don't want to pull in the done. We want to know ones that are due. And here is the one that's my favorite. Statute of limitations. Ones that are past due or due within however many days that you are looking at, in however far out you like to look. I have some firms that really like to look at 180 days, or maybe it's just 90 days. It's going to depend on your caseload. Let's just do 180 days. And then we run our report here, and this is helpful. And this is how we do the filtering. Be careful on your filters. If you add too many filters, then you may filter out some items that you're actually needing to look at. These are all your filters are ands. These are not ors. So when you're adding in filters, it's going to be, if you're looking at somebody's caseload and you're adding in paralegal Smith and their statutes that they have coming up in 180 days, it's not going to show any of the other cases for your other paralegals. So keep that in mind when you are utilizing filters. They are all ands. So try not to over filter. We're gonna run our report here, and this is our sandbox, so we may not have a ton of data on our report. And sometimes when we are screen sharing Report Builder, it can take it a minute, especially in our sandbox here. So we'll give that a minute here. Let me stop sharing for just a second to get that to run for us. And I will pop in another screen too, just to save time on
There's
our
so
report.
many criteria in reporting that it's always good to like kind of just play around and see which one works for you. Because as you saw when Amy was going through the list of statute of limitation options, there's like 15 just for statute of limitations, and they all kind of do something just slightly different. And so you can go in and play around with the report builder, play around with their criterias. You can add in multiple criteria for each report and see kind of what output it gets you. So that way you're a little bit more familiar with, what will actually work for what you're trying to get out of the report.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And let's get us over in a different screen here while that one's going. All right, so while we're waiting on that one, I've got another report up here for us that I wanted to show. There we go. All right, while we wait on our statute report, the next report I wanted to show you guys in FileVine was that incomplete task report. So I've already got one built for us, so we don't have to wait on it. While we're on our call today, you'll see it's a list of incomplete tasks, and I'll talk about a couple of the items that are in here that are super helpful, especially to stay on top of your tasks and make sure the data is clean. The one criteria item that you need, you can obviously filter out for certain team members, but you're going to want to pull in task completed is yes or no. You want to pull in no. So that's going to pull in all incomplete tasks. I do recommend separating completed tasks and incomplete tasks in separate reports. By having both of them in the same report, it can get super overwhelming, especially if you are really task heavy in your org. And here we go in our sandbox here. This is just one of us playing around. We do have, here's 1,000, incomplete tasks org wide. You can actually organize it by assign to. So you can do that group assign to, and that lets you really look at that. Now you can look at each team member, how many incomplete tasks they have, and go through it that way. Also, a couple of great things that are in the task report. One of my favorite things is this is a link. This link will actually take you to the task itself in the project. So you're not having to dig through the activity feed looking for the project. This link is also good to add to any reports that you're running in collection sections. Because again, it'll take you directly to that item entry. So you're not having to dig through the collection section that you've added it to. And I'll go over that again. Another thing you don't need is you really don't need that completed date either in incomplete task report, because it's not been completed. It's always going to be blank. So this is a great report to run. You can take a look at those target dates and organize it from target date if you would like to too, especially if you already have it pulled up for one team member. You can do that, and then take a look at the oldest tasks to newest. I build reports like these for a lot of my clients, especially those that are looking at transitioning positions. Like, oh, I'm really wanting to pull out all this one staff member's task, so we can transition them into a different role. Maybe it's a medical records clerk or something like that. That's when this task report becomes super helpful. And then, like Jasmine was saying, keep it being aware of all the different fields you have, because some fields can be similar. That's why it's great to really take a look at, have a test project open, especially when you're building those case audits, so you can look at the literal what the field is called. So the literal name of the field, making sure that is in there. And then, so you're not adding the wrong field, but like she said, it's trial and error. When you run it, you come back in, pull out that, column, and then add the one that you're looking for. Another thing, when you make changes, you'll see here, hey, this report has unsaved changes. You'll always get that red notification here when you're making any kind of changes, even if I made something just as small as adding grouping. So you will need to come in to the save and export, and this isn't a report that I made. So it's asking me to save as. If this is a report that you've made, then you can come to the top and click save. I'm going to do save as, and then just add my name here. And now I've got the report, the updated report. So when I run it, that red marker will now it's gone. But if you make any changes, FileVine's really good at letting you know that you haven't saved it yet. So if you exit out, it will, you won't have your save changes. Now that you've saved it, you'll have a lot more options here on things that you can do to your report. So we'll go over some of this next. You'll see that you can export it into Excel, or you can export it into Word. I have a lot of clients that like to export into Excel and really kind of analyze their data in that Excel. With that being said, you also have export options here for Excel. You can actually change the way the data looks when you export it. So to do that, you do have to generate your default template here. So clicking that in Excel and then download it. And I'm going to give you guys just a quick thing that a lot of my clients like to do. And that's add a quick filter. So because maybe they want to filter each of their columns when they export it into Excel, it just makes it easier for them to be able to look through. So to add that filter, you just highlight your top areas, and then we're going to click filter here. And then we're going to click save. Now, to make sure that we can, when we're exporting it, anytime we're using this report, we're going to have to upload the edited template. So I'm going to add it here, open that up. And now the export template has been uploaded. So now I'll export the report and show you what this looks like in Excel and why it is helpful. For some people that do like to do a lot of their reporting out of Excel. The only the only downside about exporting into Excel is obviously it's not going to be live data. You'll have to re-export it every time you're wanting to run that report. So just keep that in mind when you are utilizing the exports in Excel. However, a lot of people do like to do a lot of work at Excel. And as I mentioned, you can format it. And FileVine does have some little helpful tool instructions here that you'll find for Excel and Word. That was just a quick how to replace and edit a template or for something as simple as just adding filters into an export. Next thing you have here is your auto report settings. This is for when you want a report to auto run. This is helpful if this is a report you want to run weekly. Maybe it's an SOL report. You want to run monthly. Hey, the beginning of every month, I want to have my SOL report auto run for me. This report's going to it's going to actually email you. It'll email you the report and a link to it as well. So you get that in your email. You can have it sent to you in the morning of the 1st of every month or evening. You can also have it sent, maybe you want the 1st and 15th of every month or the 1st of the 30th. You can also, actually, I've had some clients ask me, what if I want it to run every day? Make that weekly selection and then just click every day. I want my report to run. So it's going to email me. And then you also have yearly. So maybe it's just a quarterly report you want to run. You can do that here as well. And again, it'll email it to you. One thing about auto reporting that I'll mention as well, because we're about to cover sharing. So you click share report. When you share a report, and you can actually share it with your entire org by making this selection to your org. And that means everybody has access to this report in their saved reports. You can also select by user in here. One thing you want to keep in mind when you're sharing a report like that is when you create these auto report settings, it's only going to set up for you. So each user that wants to have a auto report trigger for them, they have to come in here and do it for that particular user. So just because you share the report and then created auto report settings, it's not going to set up that auto report for all the users you shared it with. Each user has to do that for themselves. So keep that in mind. And another thing to mention is when you create your own report and you share it with other users, they cannot edit the report that you created. As you saw here, I took a report that another user had created and then made a change, and then I had to save as, and then I became the owner of this new report. So I didn't make any changes to the other users that had actually created it. So just a couple little things to keep in mind. Nobody, once you create a report and share it, nobody can change your report. They will have to save as themselves. And then archive. You can archive a report. So as you can imagine, reports can get pretty lengthy, especially in here in your select a report of all your reports you've saved. If it's a report you're no longer using, you can come in here and actually just click that archive button. And it'll archive it for you. All right. And then if you need to, for whatever reason, go back through those archive reports, they're all right here. And then you can unarchive them if it's something that you do end up, wanting to use. And just click unarchive. And I'll pop it back up here. You can filter through your reports too. So if you have a ton of reports in here, you can filter. And then you can also star reports. This will bring the report up here to the top. So you're not having to dig through as much. If this is a report you're using, let's say on a daily basis, you can come up here, star it, and less having to dig through. So, right now, let's take a look at the deadline report we have here. It's gonna run for us. If not, let's actually, let's look at, now that we've talked about exporting, let's talk about exporting a collection section here. So here is, it ran our deadline report. Now let's go back and do our collection section. So we've got our settlements. This is one that I've built before. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that collection section report and see, and then I can walk through on how to make it a collection export for you too. Refresh my page here and see if we can get it. Maybe we'll try a different collection section report. If this one won't run for us. Try our medicals report here, since medicals is usually a pretty popular one to run a collection section report. Let's see if we can get us a new one, since that one's not wanting to run for us. Go. Let's do our best practices here. And let's do medicals items, since this is a pretty popular one. So to do a collection export, those are where when you're in your collection section here, medicals is one that's a pretty popular one. It gives you a little, you'll have a little Excel icon right here. To click on it, and it'll actually export your data, however you build it in a report, into an Excel. And that's what we mean when we say collection export. All you need to do initially is build your report first. So for example, we'll just try to do one real quick here and then add it provider. So for medicals, maybe you want that provider full name in your report. And project name, provider full name, you got your balance due. Let's see if we want those treatment dates. Treatment date started. Treatment date. Date treatment. Date treatment. You want date treatment completed. And we have our final balance. Let's throw in. See if we've got original balance right here. So we're going to go ahead. Once you get that built, you're going to run your report and then we can save it. So we'll see if this report runs for us. And then once you get your report built, you're going to save as, if this is a report you're intending to use as a collection export only, then maybe sometimes it's good to add in your titles. Like, hey, this is for collection export. List of medical items, whatever you're intending it for, add that information in your report title so it doesn't get lost in everything else, and click save. I also like to add just before the report, if I'm using it for a report fusion, I'll include like, settlement fusion in here, or if I'm using the report for an auto tag, I'll add it in here too, so I know that this report is tied to those other extra items. And we'll click save here, and it may take it just a moment. So once you have it saved, the only other thing you're going to have to do to make sure this collection export works for the rest of your team members, if you are intending it for the rest of your team, is to make sure you share it with their whole org. Otherwise, it's not going to pop up on their front end in the collection export. Now, once you've built your report, you've saved it. For time's sake, I'm not going to wait on our org here. We're going to go ahead and pop into the advanced menu. This is going to be the last step. You're going to go into your customs editor. And I'm just going to pop into my little training space here. And once you go travel into the collection section that you have created the export for, then you're going to have a couple of things that maybe some of you have not noticed in your collection section is you have show collection options. This is going to give you a couple of cool little things that you can do. You can actually reorganize your collection section and how it's populating in that tile view. And here you'll see the export templates. This is where you're going to add the export template on a report that you've created. And then it does make a note about sharing reports and things like that. This one, let me see if I can find us a section here. That has a report for us. Let's see if this one does. It's going to populate in your reports that you have available. And then you just make the selection of the report, and then it will live in our export template. See if we can get it to say. Pop in another screen here. That I think will be a little more beneficial. All right. Now let's try this again. We're going to pop into, there we go. And let's go into our medical and export template. You'll see we already have a couple here as an example. So this is what it looks like. You hit the edit and then you'll have eligible reports. So FileVine will tell you which reports are eligible. Those are going to be reports that you've built that are the list of medicals, for example, for this one. So what that looks like in the front end is when you travel into medicals here, minimize us, you'll see our little Excel item here that we mentioned. If you have more than one collection export, so you can build as many as that you may need. I have some clients that have some for different roles because they need to see different items in their collection exports based on their role. Maybe maybe one of them is for their bookkeeper, and then one's just for the case manager that's needing to do demand preps and send a collection export of their expenses that they've incurred with medicals, then you can do that. Once you have it in here, you can actually make a little click and it'll spin and it will produce the collection export and download. So you can utilize that collection export for whatever you may need. And here it is. It says ready, click to download. And then you have your collection export, however you need. And you'll see here that this one is actually been formatted using that export template that we talked about before. So you can use that export template in the report to make even your collection export look, whatever font you want and organized how you want to see it as well. And that is a collection export. All right. Now let's travel back to our save. Now there is the other screen. We spent a lot of time in Report Builder, but when you travel to saved reports, this is where all of your saved reports are going to be. You can still export them from this screen by using your Excel, your Word. You can even still do your auto report settings. You can archive the report and you can share the report. I personally just prefer the report builder menu because I'm constantly building new reports and that's where you build your new reports. But to access any of your saved reports, without having to go to Report Builder, you can click on your saved reports and you can also edit it by just hitting the gear here and it will take you to that Report Builder. But by going to Save Reports, it'll automatically, when you select the report, it'll run it for you. So you'll have your data all right here and ready to view, and it is live data. All right, and that's really kind of the main touch points on reporting. Do we have any questions? I don't see anything in our Q&A space. You guys are welcome to put in any questions or any issues you guys have had in reporting.
Awesome. While we wait for some questions to come through, thank you so much, Amy, for walking us through Report Builder. If you all again want to watch this recording, we'll put it on our website. I did include in our chat the link to the FileVine performance audit that Amy mentioned earlier, the free help link, so that if you want to see sessions that are upcoming for free help, you can look there. And then the FileVine training video section has all of the recorded sessions from here, as well as some other videos that our team has worked to put together for all things FileVine related, Lead Docket, QuickBooks, all of that, FVDA. You can find all of those there on our website as well. I also included Amy and my email in the chat, so if you all have questions, you can feel free to reach out. If you have suggestions on topics that you'd like to see in free help, feel free to let us know there as well. And if you're interested in, again, any of our optimization or launch services, we'd be happy to help walk you through what that would look like, timeline, pricing, and all of that. Again, we run the gamut on all things FileVine and FileVine related projects. Or products, I'm sorry. So even if you're like, report builder, great, I don't have the time to build out the reports that I need, we can take that on for you as well. So just let us know there. Amy, not sure if you had any last minute things. I don't see any questions that have come in quite yet.
Nope, I don't believe so.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, excuse me, if you want to join us in the future, we'd be more than happy to see you. Next week, we'll be doing Domo, Periscope 2.0. So if you have Domo, would highly recommend joining that session, specialized session there for us. So, but if not, again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Amy, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.